Terrion Arnold, a former player for the Detroit Lions, had always been known for his skills on the field. However, his life took a dramatic turn when he found himself in the midst of a desperate situation. Arnold's life before this incident was marked by success and fame. He had played football in high school and college, and his talent had earned him a spot in the NFL. However, his career was cut short due to injuries, and he found himself struggling to cope with the loss of his identity as a football player. He had always been defined by his athletic abilities, and without football, he felt lost. Arnold's family had always been supportive of his football career. His parents had attended every game, cheering him on from the sidelines. His friends had been his teammates, and they had all shared a bond that only comes from being part of a team. However, when Arnold's career ended, he found himself drifting away from his loved ones. He started to hang out with a different crowd, people who were involved in shady dealings. He got caught up in a world of crime, and it seemed like he was in too deep to escape. As Arnold's life continued to spiral out of control, he found himself in a desperate situation. He was in debt, and he didn't know how to pay his creditors. He was struggling to make ends meet, and he felt like he had no way out. He turned to crime as a way to solve his problems, but it only led to more trouble. He was in a vicious cycle, and he didn't know how to escape. The people around him were not helping, and he felt like he was alone in his struggles. On the day of the robbery, Arnold and his accomplices had been planning the heist for weeks. They had scoped out the location, studying the security cameras and the guards' schedules. They had chosen a time when the store would be busiest, knowing that the chaos would provide the perfect cover for their crime. As they entered the store, they were masked and armed, waving their guns wildly and yelling at the customers to get down. The robbers moved quickly, smashing display cases and grabbing handfuls of cash and jewelry. They were in and out of the store in a matter of minutes, leaving behind a trail of destruction and terrified witnesses. The police were called immediately, and the responders rushed to the scene. The officers were met with a chaotic scene, with people running wildly and screaming. The police quickly cordoned off the area, trying to catch the robbers. As the police reviewed the security footage, they were able to identify Arnold and his accomplices. They had been careless, leaving behind a trail of evidence that would ultimately lead to their downfall. The police were able to track their movements, following them to a nearby hideout. The officers surrounded the building, waiting for the robbers to make their next move. The police response was swift and decisive. The officers had been trained to handle situations like this, and they knew exactly what to do. They surrounded the building, waiting for the robbers to make their next move. The police were in constant communication with each other, coordinating their efforts and making sure that everyone was safe. As the situation unfolded, the police were able to negotiate with the robbers, trying to get them to release the hostages. The officers were calm and professional, trying to de-escalate the situation. They were able to establish a rapport with the robbers, talking them down and convincing them to surrender. The police were able to rescue the hostages, and the robbers were taken into custody. The police investigation was thorough and meticulous. The officers collected evidence from the scene, including fingerprints, DNA, and video footage. They were able to piece together the events of the robbery, identifying the robbers and their motives. The police were able to track down the robbers' accomplices, arresting them and bringing them to justice. The evidence collected from the scene was damning. The security footage showed Arnold and his accomplices entering the store, their faces obscured by masks. However, the police were able to enhance the footage, revealing the robbers' identities. The witnesses' accounts corroborated the video evidence, providing a detailed description of the robbers' actions. The forensic findings were also incriminating. The police found fingerprints and DNA at the scene, matching them to Arnold and his accomplices. The evidence was overwhelming, and it seemed clear that the robbers would be convicted. The police were able to link the robbers to other crimes, revealing a pattern of behavior that was both disturbing and alarming. The witnesses' accounts provided a chilling insight into the robbers' actions. They described the robbers as calm and calculating, waving their guns wildly and yelling at the customers to get down. The witnesses were shaken, but they were able to provide a detailed description of the robbers' actions. The police were able to use this information to piece together the events of the robbery, identifying the robbers and their motives. The trial was highly publicized, with the media descending upon the courthouse to get a glimpse of the former football star. Arnold's defense team argued that he was not the mastermind behind the robbery, but rather a desperate individual who had been coerced into participating. However, the prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, including the security footage and witness testimony, which seemed to contradict Arnold's claims. The jury deliberated for hours, weighing the evidence and considering the testimonies. Finally, they returned a guilty verdict, convicting Arnold and his accomplices of armed robbery and kidnapping. The sentence was harsh, with Arnold facing decades in prison. As he stood before the judge, his eyes cast downward in shame, it was clear that his life would never be the same. The outcome of the trial was a shock to many. Arnold's fans had always seen him as a hero, a talented athlete who had inspired countless people with his skills on the field. However, the reality was far more complex. Arnold was a flawed individual, struggling with his own demons and making desperate choices. The trial was a wake-up call, a reminder that even the most talented and successful individuals can fall victim to their own flaws. The community was shocked and outraged by the news of Arnold's involvement in the robbery. Many had looked up to him as a role model, and his actions were seen as a betrayal. The incident sparked a wider conversation about the pressures and pitfalls of professional sports and the ways in which athletes can struggle to cope with the stresses of their careers. The community came together to support the victims of the robbery, raising funds and offering counseling services to those affected. The incident was a reminder of the importance of community and the need for support and understanding. The community was able to heal and move forward, but the incident would never be forgotten. The incident also highlighted the need for athletes to receive support and guidance. Many athletes struggle to cope with the pressures of their careers, and they often turn to destructive behaviors as a way to cope. The community recognized the need for athletes to receive support and guidance, and they began to offer resources and services to help athletes navigate the challenges of their careers. As we reflect on the case of Terrion Arnold, it's clear that his story is one of tragic descent. A talented athlete, revered by his fans, was brought down by his own desperation and poor choices. The incident serves as a reminder that even the most successful individuals can struggle with their own flaws and weaknesses. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of desperation and the importance of seeking help when needed. The case of Terrion Arnold is a complex and multifaceted one. It's a story of talent and tragedy, of success and failure. It's a reminder that even the most talented and successful individuals can fall victim to their own flaws and weaknesses. The incident is a wake-up call, a reminder of the importance of seeking help and support when needed. It's a story that will be remembered for years to come, a reminder of the dangers of desperation and the importance of community and support.